Hello and welcome to the Venus Flytrap Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Paul Edwards, and we're once again going to be talking about relationships, toxic relationships, VFT or Venus Flytrap relationships, which are kind of the same thing. And today we're going to be talking about why is vulnerability a power, not a weakness? What does being authentic really mean? And I'm going to share with you a story from the book between me and Tomaz, which is both funny, tragic, and enlightening. And I promise you this episode will be entertaining, it'll be empowering, and it will be enlightening, as they always are. So let's get started.
A tailored suit in a London rain. He built an empire to mask the pain. A self-made man with a heart and heart, watching the world from a place apart. Then she walked in like a sudden blade, in the midnight heat where the shadows played. A fallen heiress with a rebel soul, ready to take back all control. She lived by no rules but her own desire, wrapping his life in a ring of fire. An international ghost of a golden age, stepping back onto the center stage. Oh, the Venus flytrap opens wide with nowhere left for the heart to hide. It's a tango of sex and a dance of lies under the gaze of those velvet skies. Love, illusion, and a slow awakening. Every vow and every promise breaking. We're addicted to the high and the crash below, in a game where neither of us lets go.
Okay, well, I said let's get started, so let's do it. You know, one of the things I talk about a lot is patterns, right? I say, listen, you don't have a relationship problem, you have a pattern problem. And people go, huh? Well, let's talk about these patterns. I'm going to tell you a story from the book, true story, and it's going to help reveal how patterns can be so destructive and and cause so much chaos in your life. And, you know, people often say, well, in the relationship, you said it was a toxic relationship or a Venus flytrap relationship. Who was bringing the toxicity, right? And that was easy. It was all Tomaz. Okay, I'm kidding, right? In order to have a toxic relationship, you both have got to be toxic, right? So you're both toxic in different ways. And you're playing out these patterns that you developed when you're a child. And so you were really a victim to them at the time. You know, I always say nothing happens to you, everything happens for you, except when you're a child, because you got no choice, right? You are in an environment where you've got to do what you're told. You're going to be just inundated with these ideas and beliefs that have been passed down sometimes generation to generation, that are brainwashed into your mind and you grow up with. And if you don't work on those things, they're just going to keep repeating themselves. Hard thing to do if you're not even aware it's there, right? Or you've been conditioned a certain way. One of the analogies I use, look, in India, when an elephant is born, in order to, what they do is they tie the elephant to a tree using a little rope, right? When they don't want the elephant to go anywhere. They're going to see Mary and they're going to have a cup of tea. They need to park the elephant outside. So they put a little rope around its neck and they tie it to a tree. And then, the elephant tries to pull on the rope, but it never works. So eventually, what do? They give up. They're brainwashed into thinking that little rope stands between them and freedom, right? Now, as the elephant grows up, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's a really big elephant. And so when Mary goes to have tea with Cynthia, and she's on the elephant, she leaves the elephant outside the house, she's got to use a bigger rope, right? No, she uses the same rope as when it was a little baby. Huh? Yeah, because the elephant still believes that rope it's taking his freedom away will still be impossible to move. No. Uh-huh. So this is kind of the same thing with us. We learn these things when we're children that we carry with us throughout our lives, and they still have the same power over us. So these patterns are not easy to see, and they're not easy to break if you're not even aware of them. So the first step is awareness. So let me tell you the story. Finally, right? Get on with it, Stephen. I need a good story. All right. Well, I'm not going to guarantee this is good, but it's a story. So what happened is, and if you've read the book, actually, if you haven't read the book, go read the book. Go get the book. It's number one, right? All right. So number two, in the book, I travel a lot, right? So I'm always going out doing speaking events all over the freaking place, right? And so I come back from a speaking event, and we'd already arranged to go out to dinner with some friends. And so when I get back, I'm getting ready, and Tomaz decides she's not going to go. She's not feeling well, right? Which was code for, I'm going to stay home and drink. You can't change this now. You're going to have to go alone. And it's a 2 hour drive, right? I kind of got the gist of it, but again, I'm in a straitjacket now. There's nothing I can do, right? So I go have dinner with my friends, and it's kind of embarrassing, right? Because there's three of us now. I'm the odd wheel, but they were very nice about it. We had a lovely evening. And so I then leave and drive home 2 hours, right? So I'm gone for 5-6 hours, right? Which is more than enough time to have a few drinks, isn't it? So I get home, and she's wasted, right? And she's on the phone with her mother, and it's kind of a typical scene. Now, again, I don't want you to go into judgment here. All of these behaviors that Tomaz had with the drinking, the drugs, the sex, and all that stuff, it is all understandable when you understand all the circumstances. And I'm not making excuses for it. I'm just saying those things, right? But it doesn't change the fact that I arrived home, she was drunk, and she decides to get in the pool. I get in the pool with her, but I felt alone. Because I wasn't we were in two completely different worlds, right? And that's why very often when people drink, they want to be around other people that drink, and people who don't drink want to be around other people that don't drink, because you want to be in the same world as the person you're with or the people you're with, right? So I'm standing in the pool, I'm standing in the pool, and she's in the pool, and we're kind of talking, but we're not talking. We're talking past each other. And in my mind, I went into overwhelm of thinking, is this, the voice in my head, which I talk to a lot, and you do too. Not to my voice, but anyway, you know what I mean. We all talk to each other. We all have conversations with each other, and you just proved it because you just said, "Do I have a conversation?" Yes, you do, right? So anyway, I'm standing in the pool, and I'm kind of looking around, feeling like, I might as well be here on my own, right? And I'm thinking, the question in my mind is this what you want for the rest of your life? Because this is how it's going to be, And I thought, no. And in that moment, I came to a conclusion and made the decision. I got to let it go, right? That's it. I got to let it go. So I didn't try and rationalize with her that night, because that's not going to go down well, right? And that could end up with the police coming over, all kinds of things, right? So I just sat with it, went to bed, got up in the morning, and she's doing her thing and I'm doing my thing. And at one point, if you read the book, I don't like her smoking, right? I smoked for 20 years, right? So I know it's addictive, and but I also know it's a horrible thing and it stinks and all this stuff. I didn't like her smoking, but I tolerated it, right? And then she used to be, she'd get Ross, who was the butler, right, to go and buy her cigarettes, because she wouldn't do it when I was there because I'd give her a hard time, right? So anyway, he's not there, or Ross is doing something. So she decides to get in the car, one of my cars, right, and goes to the store. I'm going to go to the store, and she doesn't say she's going to get cigarettes, but I know that's what she's going to do, right? So here's the thing: when that happened, when she says I'm going to go get cigarettes, right? I'm going to go to the store. In my head, because I made this decision to break up with her, and I'm kind of making excuses, but this is what happened, right? In my head, I'm panicking, right? I go, this is my opportunity. I can get her out of the house now, get her away from here. There'll be no police coming over or any of that. Let's just, make this happen, right? Which It's rather naive, isn't it, right? But when you get in a state of overwhelm, you don't do rational things, right? And so, we talk about patterns, this feeling of overwhelm and then pushing everything away or running away, which had been my pattern all my life, started when I was a kid. When? Because when I was at home, my parents, from them passing down their trauma, were very controlling. And we'll get into being controlling a little bit later on, why it happens. But they were very controlling. They were also, they would gaslight, manipulate, all these things, right? Because those are the skill sets, the tools they learned how to handle life. But for me, it just shut me down emotionally, right? I couldn't say anything. Whatever I did was wrong. Or whatever I did wasn't enough. All these kind of things. I know I sound like a real victim, but these are the realities, right? And so when I used to have that happen, I would get angry. I would push that anger down, push that rage down inside me. And so I used to have to bang my head on the pillow. And this is literally, not metaphorically, literally, bang my head on the pillow until I fell asleep. It was the only way I could get to sleep. I know, poor Stephen, right? And then that ended up with me actually feeling like I was in a straitjacket until I ended up in a mental asylum, right? Literally. Yeah. And I got, what is it called? Electroconvulsive therapy, which if you haven't tried it, it's a must do. Anyway, my point is these patterns started when I was a kid. What was the pattern? Feeling overwhelmed and then wanted to run away because I didn't think I had any other alternative. So I was constantly running away from home. I ran away 8 times, but I wasn't very good at it. And they kept catching me and bringing me back, right? But my point is that is what happened when I got into overwhelm. I wanted to run away or push everything away if I didn't have the ability to run myself. Well, I couldn't run away from my home in this situation with Tomaz, so I had to push her away because at that moment, she's the source of my overwhelm. The only way for me to get back into balance is to push her away. See, I told you I was toxic too, right? Because that makes no rational sense. So here I am in the house. She's gone to the store. I'm thinking, how long is she going to be, right? 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I can probably get it done. We'll get her all her stuff out of the house. And I won't let her back in and she'll have to go. How easy is that? You're about to find out. So I walk into the kitchen and Jerry, who you obviously know from the book because you've read the book now, because you put this on pause and went to get the book and came back after you read the book. Of course, because you're smart. So Jerry is in the kitchen messing around with his phone. Russ is, I don't know what the hell Russ is doing. He's washing the dishes or washing his hair, one of the two. Anyway, they're both in the kitchen and I go in there and I go, right, here's what's going to happen. So I say, Russ, go and get all her clothes together and put them in the Rolls-Royce. And I said to Jerry, you go and get all her makeup and all the bathroom stuff together, get it in a bag, put that in the Rolls-Royce. And then, Jerry, you're going to drive the Rolls-Royce and get out of here. And he goes, where am I going to go? I don't care, just away from here. So now, and then they're sitting there looking at me like, what? And I go, come on, we only got 30 minutes, let's go. So I got them up and running around. So we're now running all over the house. Everybody's running into each other. He's got a stack of clothes and with hangers on. So Ross runs into Jerry. Jerry drops all the makeup stuff and everything. I'm running around grabbing stuff. It's like the Three Stooges, right? So anyway, we get all this stuff into the Rolls-Royce, which is in the garage. And as we're just finishing off, she pulls up in the Escalade, right? So I'm like, all right, get the rest of the stuff in the car. Then drive away, Jerry. He goes, where? I go, I don't care. Just go, right? Don't ask me difficult questions right now. So he's getting the stuff in the Rolls-Royce, and I go out to meet Tomaz, who's just pulled up in the Escalade. She's getting her stuff together, and she's going to come inside. And I just get in the seat next to her. As soon as I do that, obviously she knows what's going on. And I said, look, I'm going to take you home. Why? This is like, I go, well, look, because, and it didn't really matter why, she's just not having it, right? So she gets out of the car. Before she gets out of the car, she goes, I'm calling the police, right? I go, and I grab the phone off her and I go, no, you're not, right? So she gives up on trying to get the phone back, and she gets out of the escalator and she runs to the house, right? And there's a big window there at the front of the house, and Jerry's standing there watching all this, right? And she runs up and she's going, let me in, let me in. And he's like, what am I going to do, right? So then she tries to get in the front door. Meanwhile, I've got this freaking phone in my hand. Why? I don't know. I just got it in my hand. I'm like, I don't want this. So I put it on the passenger seat of the Escalade, and I get out of the Escalade, right? Meanwhile, she's trying to get in all the doors of the house. She's going around the house, frantically trying to get inside the house. So now, eventually she comes back and she goes, and she starts, how would I describe it? Screaming at me. Probably is the best word, right? So she's talking to me in a screaming voice. How about that? Kind of more neutral. Anyway, she's not happy. And she's basically explaining it very articulately that she's not happy. Anyway, when she said she was going to call the police, she did call the police, right? She did, right? She called the police, and I grabbed the phone off her. Then she left the car because she'd called the police, and then she went to the front of the house. So then I had this phone, and I left it on because I know she's going to tell the police. I grabbed the phone, right? So I put the phone on the passenger seat of the car. So we're arguing, and then the police roll up, right? So she, of course, runs over to the police and gives her story, and I just kind of stand there, right? And she's saying, yeah, and he does this and he does that, and he's crazy, He's just thrown me out of the house, and then he stole my phone. Well, of course, they knew that she just used the phone to call the police, right? So they said, well, where was the phone the last time you saw it? And she said, in the Escalade. So one of the officers goes to the Escalade, opens the passenger door. He picks up the phone. He goes, is this your phone? And now she's really mad, right? Because she realizes that I got rid of the phone, which kind of one-upped her a little bit, right? So she goes, well, listen, he's throwing me out. I live here, and you live here. Yeah, all my clothes are in there, right? And he goes, okay. So then they come over I'm just standing a little bit further up the driveway by the side of one of the cars, and I'm just standing there, and he goes, okay, so what's the deal here? Does she live here? I went, no, she doesn't live here. She says, all the clothes are inside the house. Can we go in and look? I didn't have to say yes. I could have said no. But I'm thinking, what the hell? There aren't any clothes in there. I go, yeah, sure. Come on in. I'll show you around. Now, she doesn't know this, right? So she's saying that I'm going to show the police into the house, and she's looking at me like, you idiot. I have got you now, right? So go into the house with the police. It's actually the sheriff's, right? And we go in there. Now, it's not the first time they've been there, if you know about the book, right? They were pretty much regulars, and I think they had me on speed dial. Anyway, so they come in the house, they look around. There's a male officer and a female officer. The male officer sits down in the living room, so I sit down with him, and the female officer goes on the hunt. She comes back into the living room, shaking her head, right? Like there's nothing here. But kind of knowing that probably 20, 30 minutes ago, there was all her clothes were here, right? But she doesn't know for sure. She can't say that. For right now, there's nothing there. So the two officers and I walk out the front door. She is expecting me to be in handcuffs, right? And her get the house, which had been her play numerous times before. But we walk out just chatting, right? And the sheriff's going, yeah, well, obviously she doesn't live here, but thanks for letting us look around. And her face is like she'd seen a ghost. Yeah, not a Rolls-Royce ghost, a real ghost. Is there? Anyway, so I'm walking out, and she's totally shocked, right? So eventually they tell her that she's got to go, right? And she can't take the car. So she has a friend, Monica, who's been there to pick her up before, comes over to pick her up. You can imagine there was steam coming out of the windows of the car as she drives away. Now I go back in the house, crash on the sofa, because Jerry's gone at the Rolls-Royce, which is also funny because at one point he calls me on the phone while I'm with Tomaz, right? And he goes, dude, I can't figure out how to get the car into drive, right? And I go, oh shit, right? It's on the steering wheel, right? Oh shit, okay. Listen, you gotta go. Okay, I'm going, right? So he gets the garage door goes up. Well, we're standing there and he drives past us in the Rolls-Royce. She doesn't know all the stuff is in there. As he's driving down the road, at that point, the police car is arriving. It's a zoo, right? So he drives away and he's gone. I have no idea where he is, and I've forgotten about him by now once Tomaz is driving away. I get inside the house and I go and crash on the sofa, like exhausted with all this madness and mayhem, right? And then my phone rings. It's Jerry, right? I go, oh, I forgot all about Jerry, right? So I pick up the phone. He goes, dude, what's going on? I mean, what? He goes, I'm driving around in a Rolls-Royce that isn't mine. I've got all these women's clothes in this car that aren't mine. If she calls the police, I mean, how far does a Rolls-Royce stand out? I'm going to jail. What are you doing? What's going on? And he goes on and on and on, right? He goes, I called my friend. I used to work at the sheriff's department. He says, just leave the car. Da, da, da. And I go, okay, calm down. Just come back. And he goes, what do you mean come back? I said, it's all done. Just come back. So he comes back to the house. I'm still just kind of recovering on the sofa. And he comes in the house. He goes, dude, what the fuck is happening? What happened? How did you manage to get all that sorted out? I said, let me tell you. So I told him the story. And he's talking about his situation. And anyway, it's chaos, right? But the situation got calmed down. Now, here's my point. Or one of them, right? So once I started to calm down, and I started to come out of this feeling of being completely overwhelmed, obviously I felt bad, right? I mean, you can't just throw someone out of your house. Well, I mean, you can, but it's going to have consequences, and it's not a good thing to do, right? But that goes back to my childhood when I was a runner. And I've had girlfriends say to me, you know, you're a runner, right? I mean, what do you mean I'm a runner? Because when things get too much for you, you run away. And that was a huge light bulb moment for me. And I was doing it again because these patterns are so they're just so overpowering. They overpower logic and reason, which is why we have to first become aware of them and then heal them, because they can destroy our lives and cause all kinds of madness and mayhem, chaos, and destruction. So then I was like, man, I wish I hadn't done that. I can imagine how she would feel terrible right now. Because this is her home. And how would it feel if someone threw you out of your home? It'd feel terrible, right? It'd be awful. Would it be stressful? Of course, right? But at the same time, I couldn't call her up right that second and say, hey, listen, I was just kidding. I couldn't call her up and say, I'm really sorry, come home, right? And so, but I've got all of her clothes in the car, right? And Jerry had come back. He said, what should I do? I said, well, go park the car on a parking lot somewhere, get an Uber and come back here. Don't bring that car back here with all that stuff in it, because she probably will call the police and say I've got all the stuff, and they'll come and ask me questions, and they'll be here in the Rolls, right? So just get an Uber back. So then I said, but we have to when he got back and we talked about it, I said, we have to get rid of the clothes. We got to get the clothes back to her somehow, some way. So Jerry's girlfriend, Leah, had a brother, right, who was a cab driver. And so it's called Eduardo. So anyway, we get him to go pick up the stuff. Him and Jerry go get the stuff. I know, these people help me out, right? So Jerry and Eduardo get the stuff out of the Rolls-Royce, pack it into these little suitcases, put it in Eduardo's cab, and they take it to Tomaz, or to Monica's hair salon, and drop the bags off with Tomaz. And of course, she's waiting for him to come, fuming, right? And she says, well, where did you get these bags from? And he goes, hey, I don't know. I just got a call to go pick up these bags in a parking lot and bring them here. I have no idea, right? So she's completely furious about this whole thing, right? So I got her clothes back. But I felt bad about this situation. So I was already craving to take her back. And I'd never really wanted to let her go, but I was overwhelmed and I didn't know what to do. And I mean, I tried to get her into rehabs, but it never worked. And her father had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on her going to rehabs. And what I later found out, for reasons we're not going to go into right now, that she could never give up alcohol. She could never give up drugs, but she would never give up drugs. She would never give up her addictions. Why? Because it was the only way she felt alive. She was so afraid of being present, so afraid of living in this reality because it was too painful for her. And so she had to escape. And she would rather die than not have those escape mechanisms. It's pretty tough, right? Pretty harsh and tragic. But here's my point. That pattern that I developed when I was a child, through circumstances at that time, let's be honest, were out of my control. And I believe we're all given these challenges and put in a place where we can't control things, where we are going to have some kind of trauma that we're going to have to deal with in our lives. It's one of the challenges we're given in this life. And these challenges help us remember more of who we are. They build resilience. They build character. They build the ability to live life on your terms. But first, it's going to hurt. So, Stephen, are you saying that to get where we really want to be who we really are, we're going to suffer? 100%. You are going to suffer. Well, that's rather sad, isn't it? No, it isn't. Why? You ask good questions, by the way. Because we have to have contrast. Why? Well, you got to know up to know down. You got to know left to know right. Now, to you, when I say left, it looks like I know that, right? But that's left for me. Anyway, my point is, you got to know hot to know cold. You got to know sadness to know joy. And to the extent that you experience them is to the extent you can experience the opposite. And so we want to experience the spectrum of emotions.
Hi, listen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're here to make a public service announcement. If you're enjoying this conversation, which I know you are, right? Because if you say no, you probably lie about other things too, right? So if you're enjoying this, which I really do hope that you are, please take a moment to follow or hit the subscribe button and the like button so you never miss an episode. Let's get back to the conversation.
And we want to experience the spectrum of sanity, which I talk about in the book. So we're all on a spectrum of insanity. Well, I'm not insane. Yes, you freaking are, right? How do I know? I've read the reports. No, look, we live in an insane world. And I'm not joking. That's not a joke. That's a fact. We live in an insane world. Imagine if an alien was to come and actually be stupid enough to tell us that they're an alien and ask questions and look at our behavior and they go, wait a minute, you kill each other, you go to war with each other, you fight each other over everything. It's completely disharmonious. I don't know. Check it out. It might be a word. It might not. You'd have to, if you find out, let me know. Anyway, the point is we live in an insane world. We do insane things. That, you say to this alien, well, listen, everybody has a car. And you explain what a car is. Well, how do you get these cars? Well, you go to a car dealership, and what you do is you buy a car you can't afford. So they lend you the money to buy the car. And by the time you finish paying for the car, you paid about twice the amount the car would have cost you if you didn't borrow the money. Then when you drive the car off the lot, it loses 30% of its value instantly. So that's what we do. And they go, you're joking, right? No, that's what we do. It's insane. We live in an insane world. You live in a world where there's more than enough food to feed everybody on earth many, many times over. And yet you've got millions of people that are starving to death. How does that work? Yeah, well, because to get fed, you have to be creating value to make money so that you're worth feeding. What? Yeah. If you're not of any monetary value, you're not going to eat. You're not going to have a roof over your head. You probably won't have shoes on your feet. which means you're probably going to die just from a cut in your feet, which is absolutely what happens every day. And that's why sending shoes out to some of these countries that have nothing is one of the most important things you can do. My point is this: it's insane. So don't tell me you're not insane. You are. You're driven insane. You don't live in your nature, because we don't live in nature. We're a part of nature. We're disconnected from our nature. So all these things mean we're insane. My point is, you are somewhere on that spectrum. And the other thing I would say is, look, you're not normal. And you should be glad. I mean, first of all, show me a normal person, right? Yeah, no, you're not, right? So no, there's no normal person. Where is normal on the spectrum? It isn't. We're all different. We're all unique, and we're all a little crazy. But that's good. We like a bit of crazy. You see, in his book, Myths to Live By, Joseph Campbell says, it's not the perfection we love in other people, it's the imperfection. It's what makes them unique, right? Now, there are extremes on that spectrum. I know. I've been in extremes on that spectrum. And sometimes it's really good, right? I've been as high as a kite without drugs, by the way. Not that I haven't taken drugs, which you know in the book I did, right? And I had done in my teenage years in a big way. But I have been able to also attain the highest of highs without doing any drugs. And I've also had the lowest of lows, where I suffered severe depression most of my life, right? So I've had both ends of the spectrum, but that gives me a perception, a perspective that a lot of people don't have. It gives me a depth of compassion, because I can usually understand both sides of an argument or both sides of a situation, which is very powerful. It's a gift. It's also a curse, right? So everything is two sides, right? But my point is, these patterns can be very destructive. That was a very destructive situation, right? And it could have got serious and people could have got hurt, which in some situations they did. Okay, so patterns. And how do we deal with patterns? How do we change patterns? Well, let's talk about it. Let's get into it a little bit. So awareness, step one, right? And then we've got to be doing things that build, bottom line is, if we're doing these things and these things happen to us as a child, how do we feel about ourselves? We felt unworthy, right? And we were probably told that, who are you? You're such a fool. You're such an idiot. Oh my God, you're always doing this. What's wrong with you? Yeah. And you can see the emotion is still attached to that a little bit, right? So those things are happening to us as children. But later on, we can get the discernment to realize they actually happen for us in a certain way. But we're not there yet. And so many people, as we go through this process of healing, we need tools to do it. So it begins with two words. The two words are Latin words, and the two words are saper ord, which means dare to be wise. So these two words were originally written by Horace in his Apostoles, and then were made even more famous in the 1790s by somebody called Kant, who was a German philosopher. And he used the frame or term saper ord to say, look, dare to be wise. In other words, dare to think for yourself. Trust in yourself. Know that whatever you need is within you, and that things are not happening to you, they're happening for you, right? So dare to be wise. And so what I did is I made an acronym out of DARE, D-A-R-E, which stands for Daily Active Remembering Experience. So each day in my books, I give people a daily active remembering experience, or dare for them to do something that maybe they've been putting off, maybe they've been afraid to do. And it can be anything. It doesn't matter to begin with. It can be the small, it could be putting out the trash. It could be calling your mother, right? It could be anything, right, that you've been putting off, because somewhere in your psyche, there's a fear of doing it or resistance, right? And so little by slow, you overcome those things. And, little by slow, the things can get bigger and bigger, right? As you build more and more confidence and more esteem. But it's not one big thing that's going to happen overnight. It's the little things you do, the little daily rituals you do that over time build and build and build. So think about it. If you have a daily active remembering experience every day for a week, how are you going to feel after a week? Are you going to feel worse? No, you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to be building confidence and certainty in your ability to overcome obstacles in your life. Imagine what you're going to be like after a month or 3 months. You're going to be unstoppable. In fact, there's a good chance you'll become a pain in the ass. Don't ask me how I know, right? But I'm dealing with it, right? So these are things that are going to make a difference in your life. It's not an overnight thing. It's not one thing. So you start having your daily active remembering experiences, and we're creating a diary for all this stuff so you can track it, because if you can't measure something, you can't manage it, right? So what that's going to do is help to feed into your identity, all right? So your identity is the most powerful force in the human psyche. We will go to extremes to live in accordance with who we believe we are. So we need to get back to being who we really are, remembering who we really are, and reinforcing that. So one of the things that will help reinforce your identity are two other words, right? And these are considered to be the most powerful two words in the universe. Now, I don't know that we know everything about the universe, right? And so when people say these are the most two powerful words in the intelligent universe, well, we've got two issues. One is we don't know if we're the only ones in the intelligent universe. And secondly, we don't even really know if we're intelligent or not. If you look around at the things I just talked about, right? Yeah, is that intelligent? I don't know. It's at least debatable, right? But the bottom line is these are two very powerful words. And whatever we say after the words I am, we become. If I say I'm so miserable, I'm so stupid, I'm just not worth anything, I'm not capable, then that's who you'll become. And you will live up to that identity. Whereas if we say I am confident, I'm congruent, I'm powerful, and crazy, whatever it is, whatever it is, we will become that. I'm happy, vibrant, alive, and free. I'm powerful, persuasive, confident, and congruent. I'm healthy, wealthy. I'm living my dream. I have many wonderful friends, an incredibly strong and intelligent team. I'm blessed with an amazing family who I love and who love me. And I'm saying it with passion, right? So you could say, well, that sounds like an affirmation, a little bit. It also sounds like an incantation. Incantation, affirmation. What's the difference? Incantation, or even an incantation is something that is a ritual that's ritualistic. It has certain ritualistic language, right? And it was considered to be magical because it creates things in the material world, in the physical world. It shifts because when you say those words in that ritualistic way with energy, what kind of energy? Positive energy. You're creating waveforms, vibrations in the external world, which are creative, right? So we're creating that reality in the physical world, and the affirmation part is working on our psychology. So we're working on the inside and the outside simultaneously. We're using the two most powerful words in the universe. All this together is extremely powerful. So what I'm suggesting is that you remember the words saper or dare to be wise, and have a daily dare, a daily active remembering experience. It doesn't have to be big, it can be small, but it's giving you momentum in your life on the journey home. And then use the words I am, incantation, affirmation to create your own personal statement of intention. Or as I also like to call it, an incanfirmation. Hey, if it works, right? So that you can build your esteem and your confidence and your certainty. That you become unstoppable. Your armor is strong. If people say something about you, you don't care because you know who you are.
If someone says something to you and it's not true and you're triggered by it, it's because there's doubt in your mind if it is true, or you're worried what people will think if they believe it's true. When you do these things I'm sharing with you, you won't have that fear anymore. You'll know who you are. It'd be like someone saying, you're a green, hairy-backed monster. But are you going to freak out if someone says that? No, you don't care, right? You're like, I know it's not true, right? So if someone says you're an idiot, or if someone says I'm a loser, then it should have the same effect as if they were calling you a green, hairy-backed monster. It's just ridiculous. You know it isn't true. And so it doesn't bother you. So you're not hooked by it. I know. Genius, right? Amazing. All right? And then when you start doing these things, then you start to have moments of vu déjà. Huh? Well, you've heard of déjà vu, right? Of course you have. All right. So déjà vu is when you think you've been this place before, heard this before, been in this situation before, and there's like a memory, right? Everybody knows what déjà vu is, and almost everybody I've ever met has had a déjà vu. So you got to be crazy to have that. Well, maybe, but you're all crazy anyway. How do I know? Well, because you're here listening to this podcast. You're going to be a little crazy to either make this podcast or listen to it, right? Which is good, because it means what? We're unique. We're not trying to be somebody else's idea of what normal is, because you'll never do it, right? You're who you are. You're a unique aspect of the whole, right? And you've come here to relish that uniqueness, to celebrate that uniqueness, and to share it with the world. We're all given these unique gifts that we're here to express in the world. It takes faith to do that, because it's scary. Are people going to like you or not? Are people going to agree with you or not? But when you have the courage to live who you really are, to put your gifts out into the world, that's when life becomes you. Yes, there are going to be people going to disagree with you. Yes, there are people going to vilify you. And yes, there are people who are going to love you for it. That's going to happen either way, right? So you may as well be following your dream. You may as well be living who you really are than living who you think other people expect you to be, which is never going to make you happy. So vu déjà is the opposite of déjà vu. It's when you see something that you thought you knew. You thought you knew everything about. You thought you understood, and now you see it in a different way. And you understand it differently, and it changes everything. That is vu déjà. Yeah, I know, really cool, right? And Tomaz used to give me vu déjà all the time because she was a genius. Her father was a genius, right? Billionaire, incredibly intelligent, genius. And so she got some of those genius genes. That's why she was a genius at running rings around me, right? But she, when we would go in the sex room, we'd be there for hours and hours and 2 or 3 days, and we would take breaks, we'd go play backgammon, and we would talk about everything and had amazing conversations. And she would very often give me that experience of vu déjà. She would get me to see things in ways I'd never looked at before. Things that I was so certain I was right about that I ended up not being. But those are breakthrough moments. And in the books you'll read that I've written, you're going to get a lot of vu déjà moments. Hopefully you're having some now, but we haven't got into the really deep stuff yet. All right. So one of the other things I wanted to do, just take a few minutes here. One of the things I like to do is answer people's questions because people see things that I don't see and ask questions that I probably wouldn't have thought of, right? So one of the questions I was asked is, what is the cost of awareness? Awareness is expensive. What did you have to lose or outgrow to become the man who could write the Venus flytrap? Well, I mean, the Venus flytrap's a story, right? So it's a true story. These things actually happen. So people would say, well, now you're an author. I go, well, not really. I mean, I'm just an author, I think, isn't an author someone who makes stuff up, creates characters from their head? And so I'm just
telling a story about something that happened in my life. But anyway, so I don't know that I had to become somebody, but I did have to tap into parts of my character that I hadn't probably tapped into maybe for a long time. So what did I lose? I didn't lose anything. I only gained, right? I almost lost my sanity, right? Again, right? But I really never lost anything. And I don't know, outgrow is the right word. Maybe, because I became a different person. I mean, literally, right? I had to, and part of that is, when you become, it's like shedding a skin, right? And it's like there's a death there of the old you. And you have to grieve that because there's a part of you that's going to miss it, right? I mean, we love ourselves and sometimes we got to let go of parts of ourselves that we might love that are not serving us anymore, right? So I had to go through that. And in the end, I was better off for it all, So people say, well, if you had a chance, would you go through it again or would you not go through it? I go, I'd go through it again. It was what I needed. And I'm not saying I knew that every moment. I was enthralled by the whole situation. My emotions overcame my clarity for sure, because I had holes in who I was. I had frailties. My vibration wasn't where it should be because I was holding down negative energy from patterns created in my childhood. And so I was prone to giving myself away in a relationship, being afraid of losing my partner, giving myself away little by slow, not doing the things that made me who I was without realizing it until what? All those things were gone. And these are some of the things that people do in a toxic relationship. Stop seeing their friends, stop seeing their family, stop going to the gym. So for me, these things were taking little pieces of me away until I was isolated. And then this person is the only thing you have in your life. And that's what they want. You see, in most relationships, there's a giver and a taker. Now, they're both two sides of the same coin, right? The giver is afraid of losing someone, and the taker is afraid of not getting what they want. Because if they don't get what they want, it means they're less than worthy. It's the same thing coming at them in a different way. No matter how much the giver gives, it's never going to be enough. No matter how much the taker is given, it will never be enough. Neither of them can fill the hole inside them that needs to be filled. So, let's see. In the next episode, we're going to get into more questions that people have asked me to answer, which will be enlightening, empowering, and entertaining for you. In the meantime, sapere ord, dare to be wise.
Let's go. Spiritual sparkle in a world of gray, finding the truth in the disarray. It's a raw confession of a life lived fast, breaking the chains of a heavy past, from the erotic spirit to the soul's rebirth, finding what a human life is really worth. Sex, lies, and the repercussions stay as we dance the final act away. Just a true story of a love so deep, promises that we could never keep. In the garden of the trap we lay, waiting for the break of a